what is a place that you absolutely love to go, or something that you really love to do? If someone was going to say, "Hey, we're going to go there tomorrow," or "Why don't you just take tomorrow and you don't have to worry about anything and just set that day aside and just do that thing that you love." No one has to tell you to be excited about doing that. You just are. It just wells up in you because you love it. In Psalm 81, this Psalm of Asaph, he begins with, "Sing for joy to God our strength. Shout joyfully to the God of Jacob. Raise a song, strike the timbrel, play all these musical instruments, the sweet sounding lyre with the harp. Blow the trumpet at the new moon, at the full moon," of these festivals set aside for celebration and remembering of God and worship, remembering what God's done. "At the full moon on our feast day, for it is a statute for Israel and an ordinance of the God of Jacob." And that ordinance wasn't a dry word, but it was something given from God for them to enjoy and be protected through, saved by, helped to know God through. It's something to celebrate. And if the audience got that, this psalm could end here in verse 5, but it goes all the way to 16. So we know that they didn't. And for it's here for our benefit because we are in the same place a lot of times too. So he says in verse 5, he established it for a testimony in Joseph. Joseph being the one sold into slavery, brought down to Egypt, where Israel was then provided for, and then all these different nations through Egypt, and God providing through the years of famine there. 400 years later, God would lead them through Moses out of Egypt. But he established it for a testimony. God did this in Joseph when he went throughout the land of Egypt. So when they were led out, it says, I heard a language that I did not know. I heard a language that I did not know. So here, he begins, celebrating, but the people, not resonating with this sense of joy. Sing for joy, shout joyfully. Okay, you're not here with me. You're not getting excited about that thing, about that place. Okay, so let me introduce you to another speaker. Let me reintroduce you to the God that you know. He says, "I heard a language I did not know. I heard a lip that I did not know." Verse 6. Remember, be rejuvenated. It says in verse 6, I relieved his shoulder. This is the new speaker. This is God speaking. "I relieved his shoulder of the burden. His hands were freed from the basket, the load, maybe to carry bricks. You called in trouble, and I rescued you. I answered you in the hiding place of thunder," the mountain of God, where he revealed himself more to Moses and the people. "I proved you at the waters of Meribah." So I remember, be rejuvenated. I relieved you. I freed you. I rescued you. I've relieved your shoulder, freed your hands from their load. I rescued you. I am God. I am the God that revealed myself to you on the mountain where you were terrified at the majesty of it all, the power and the awesomeness of who I am. And you sent Moses to come and inquire and hear from me and let him relate me to all of you, the people. I am the God that provided for you at the waters of Meribah. This is where Moses was instructed to speak to the rock, and the water would pour out from it, and he struck it, and that's another story. But where God provided for the people by having water flow out of this rock. So remember, be rejuvenated. Verses 8 to 10. "But hear, O my people, and I will admonish you." So here's a reprimand, but with a desire to rehabilitate. "Hear, O my people, and I will admonish you, O Israel, if you would listen to me, let there be no strange God among you, nor shall you worship any foreign god. So in this reprimand, this rehabilitation, as he's reminding them of this God so they can come to this joy, he's saying, I want to free you, rescue you from these false gods and these false ways of worship, to remove that. I, the Lord, am your God, who brought you up from the land of Egypt. Open your mouth wide, and I will fill it again, as at the waters at Meribah. Verses 11 and 12, it says, but my people, they didn't listen to my voice. So they are reticent to receive this reprimand and be rejuvenated, rehabilitated, rejuvenated, to come to joy. So he releases them, not in full, but for a time. So I gave them over to the stubbornness of their heart, because they didn't listen. They wouldn't obey me. Gave them over to the stubbornness of their heart to walk in their own devices. Verses 13 and following to 16, the end of the chapter, the end of the psalm. This is about reconciliation and God's waiting, wanting them to return. And at the moment of their return, his desire is reconciliation. Oh, that my people would listen to me, that Israel would walk in my ways, that they would obey. I would quickly subdue their enemies and turn my hand against their adversaries, those who hate the Lord, who would pretend obedience to him. And their time of punishment would be forever. So even those that would be their enemies, even though if they didn't actually have genuine respect for God, they would feign it, they would submit, and then no longer be a problem for God's people. But I would feed you, his people, with the finest of wheat and with honey from the rock, and I would satisfy you. I would bring you to that place of joy, that excitement, where the psalmist could just begin sing for joy, and you'd say, "Oh, I know that joy. I want to be there. That's what I want to do." God's satisfaction, it can be found in the strangest of places. He provided honey from the rock, like the testimony of Joseph in Egypt. He provided for them out of that hard place of Egypt. Like the testimony from Meribah, where water sprung from the rock at God's command and provided for his people. Satisfaction from God is found in these strangest places, and I think of like Easter eggs, right? Where Easter comes, we put the Easter eggs out all over the yard, and we're not really hiding them. Well, my parents did really hide from us. They were buried in our backyard, and we wouldn't find them for another year or two. But we're not really hiding those Easter eggs from the kids. No, that's not the point. It's more like they're tucked into the scenery. And God's satisfaction it's tucked into the scenery of our everyday. He wants us to have it. He wants us to find it in him through those things. He is the satisfaction. It's his joy to be that satisfaction to us. And just as he did through Joseph, just as he did through the waters of Meribah, I think of that rock where Jesus was placed after his death at Calvary, that pours forth the sweetest honey that meets every need to be satisfied in our life. Put into the scenery of our everyday life, made a part of it, mixed up into it, waiting for us to find it. He's not very far from every one of us. So find the joy in this day. See God's satisfaction. And he's there waiting, wanting to be met by you, to be enjoyed in worship by us, and to be our satisfaction. I pray that you may be active in the sharing of your faith, enjoying him today, and I will catch you all in the next video.